Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my new bookshelf. So when I moved into this flat, I didn't really have a bookshelf. I had a place where I placed my books, but it wasn't really a bookshelf. All my books ended up being all around my flat, in my bedroom, in my living room. But now I finally have bookshelves. This is the bookshelf that I bought in this color. I knew I didn't want to have the white or black bookshelves. Nothing bad with those colors, it's just that I love the wood feeling. I know it's not real wood. Thankfully, one of my siblings, my sister, helped me to build the bookshelves, and it was a lot of help because the entrance is pretty small and the bookshelves are long, so it was kind of a mess to build everything, but she helped me with the big bodies, like the big shelf, and then I just did like the little things that I could do on my own, that I didn't need that physical help. The last things I need to do is build the shelves that are going to go on top. Wish my luck, because I'm a little bit tired right now and I don't know if I'm going to have the strength to build everything. My plan right now is to go through all my bookshelves and see the books that I want to unhaul. I have so many books spread all over around my flat, so it's going to take me a while, I feel like. The Crank trilogy, I also had the third book, but my sister took that book. This trilogy has a lot of trigger warnings, and I know for a fact I'm not going to read them. Read this book in a 24-hour readathon, and honestly it wasn't that good. Here's a pile of random books that I read and I don't think I'm going to read them. I have this book on my Kindle, unpopular opinion, but I did not love this book as everyone else did, so I'm just going to haul it. The Nevernight trilogy, I also had the first book, but my sister took it. I tried reading the first book, I did not like it, so I'm not going to continue with the trilogy. I had to read this book for school, I'm not going to read it. It brings me a lot of bad memories, so goodbye. This book, I kept it for the memories because it was the first book I ever bought in English when I lived in Ireland, and also, as you can see, I didn't know English whatsoever, so I annotated the words that I didn't understand, and it's kind of funny to see these words because now I know what all these words mean, but then I didn't. These are the books that I have to go through. There are some others on the back. There's quite a lot of books. And then these are the books that I know 100% I'm going to unhaul. The organizing part was actually the thing that I kept changing. So my plan for today is to actually start putting on all the shelves and deciding where to put all the books, like organize the bookshelves. So this is the current situation. This is a complete mess, but hopefully I'm going to be able to, organize everything and also put the shelves inside the library, and I also need to put the shelves there in that one. I've changed my bookshelf like 3 or 4 times already, and I'm going to keep changing them, but I'm honestly not too worried about it. I just love that I have a place where I can put all my books and there can be all there. I don't need them to have a very organized structure. Putting on that shelf is harder than it looks, since there's so many things around and it just wouldn't fit by genre or author or name. I know where everything is, my mom knows where everything is, so that's the important thing. And also on the bookshelf, the lower part, since it's covered, I decided to put all the albums and also graphic novels from my childhood, well, from my childhood and from my siblings' childhood. And now the bookshelf tour. I'm going to show you my books, and I'm also going to talk about the books that I still haven't read, so my physical TBR. So as you can see, I have one big bookshelf, then a small one, and then a tiny one, I guess, here. And then on top there's 2 more bookshelves. The way that this is organized, here are most of the Spanish, French and Latin books, where all of them are French, Latin and Spanish books, and also Catalan. Here we have all the English books, and here it's a mix of everything. Okay, so on this shelf, I read all of them except After Alice. We have Moonspells, Milk and Honey, which is a poetry book that I think everyone knows. Touching from a distance, this is the biography of Ian Curtis, the singer of Joy Division. He died when he was 23, I believe, and this biography is one of my all-time biographies. I love this book so much. After Alice, this is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, I believe. I haven't read it yet. Then we have Patti Smith. Just Kids by Patti Smith is one of my all-time favorite books as well. I love this book so much. It's also a biography. I love biographies in case you couldn't tell. M Train is a collection of stories. I feel like if you don't like Patti Smith, you won't like this book. I did because I like Patti Smith, but if you don't like her, I wouldn't recommend it. The Paris Wife, it's an amazing book. This is a historical fiction of Hemingway and his first wife when they moved to Paris and all that happened in the relationship till they separated. Thanks to this book, I started reading Hemingway and I love Hemingway, sadly. Hate him as a person, love his books. And The Woman in Black, it's an entertaining horror read, but nothing too special. Then moving on here, How to Read Parisian. I actually liked this book when I read it. It's kind of embarrassing to admit it, but when I read it, I thought it was a fun read. The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan W. Watts. I really like his speeches. I haven't read this book yet. When I started reading it, I was in the right mindset, so I need to start again with a better mindset, I guess. But Alan W. Watts, he has so many good speeches online. The Book of Longing by Leonard Cohen. This is a poetry book. And as much as I love Leonard Cohen's music, I didn't like this poetry book. Flags by Orion Carlotto. I did not like this book. I only liked the design, and that's basically a brief history of fashion. I still haven't read this book. My sister gave it to me when I started fashion at university. Then Dirty Pretty Things and Weird Sweet Love. These are poetry books by Michael Faltet. They are erotica poetry books. I liked them when I read them. Maybe if I read them now, not so much. And then Sarati, the story of a young alcoholic. I love this book so much. Then here we have some of my favorite books. This is one of my childhood favorite series. There's 3 books in the main series and then 4 in the spin-offs, and I personally think they are amazing. I want to buy the other books because I lost them in the process of moving so many times, and I want to read the series as an adult and see if I still like it. I think I will. Then here we have some more classics in the Classic Lines editions, and I also have this book in that edition but it just doesn't fit there. I've read all the Jane Austen books in this edition, so I've read Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Emma, and I still need to read these 3 books, but I feel like these 3 books are going to be perfect for autumn. Then here we have some more classics. The Prince by Machiavello. I recommend this book to everyone. If you like philosophy, I think you will really like this one. Then some other classics. This is Spanish poetry. My mom loves this author, but I still haven't read anything by her. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a classic. The Great Gatsby, another classic. Momo, another classic. And then Ghost Stories by Charles Dickens. And then right here we have the biography of Marianne Faithfull. If you love the Rolling Stones, the 70s, groupies, all of that, you will know who she is. Then we have Hippie by Pablo Coelho, It by Alexa Chung, 80 Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen, and A Day with Claude Monet and Giverny. I absolutely love this book. Impressionism is my all-time favorite art movement, and Claude Monet, as basic as I'm going to sound, is one of my favorite painters. So I really loved reading this book. We just did this bookshelf and now we're going to move on to this bookshelf. On top, I still don't have any books. So here we have some of my classics, the majority of my classics, and only these 2 are in Spanish. Here we have Lolita, Light of My Life, Fire of My Loins, My Sin, My Soul. This is a very controversial book and I can understand why, but the fact that Nabokov was able to write this novel even though English was his 3rd language, I think that's really impressive. Then we have Ernest Hemingway, A Farewell to Arms. Like I said before, after I read The Paris Wife, I started reading Hemingway and I do really enjoy his books. The Old Man and the Sea, this book, I completely love it. I know it makes me look kind of pretentious maybe, but I really enjoyed The Old Man and the Sea. I think it's a really good book. But coming back here, A Farewell to Arms, I did like it. It was my favorite novel of his, but I did like it. 10 Days a Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I did not like this book. This was my first novel by Fitzgerald and the only one I've ever read, I think. I do own 2 or 3 more of his novels, So hopefully I will like his other novels because I want to like him. Then The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I haven't read it, but I think it's a perfect book for autumn. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Oh my god, this book. I read this book, I think, during the summer of 2019, and I did not like it. I thought the writing style was so annoying. Like, the dialogues the characters had were so annoying, but till this day I think of this book all the time. So that means something. Like, honestly, I don't know what it means, but this book haunts me till this day. Shirley Jackson, I don't know what you did to me, but I cannot stop thinking about this book. And I do love the gothic feeling and the atmosphere of this book. It's just that the characters and the dialogues, they were so annoying. Classic Tales of Horror by Edgar Allan Poe. I still have not read this book. Little Women by Louisa M. Alcott, and then Good Wives. This is a sequel of Little Women. My sister loves this book. It's one of her favorite classics. Then we have A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I haven't read any James Joyce books. I want to, but people say that his books are kind of hard to get into, so we shall see. Moby Dick, I'm so excited to read this book. It's one classic that I've been meaning to read for the longest time. The Turn of a Screw by Henry James. I have the Spanish edition and I love these covers. Then we have The Odyssey by Homer, La Odisea. Then Good Wives, The Jungle Book by Kipling. I'm so excited to read this book. Fiesta, The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. This book is set in Spain, where I'm from, so I'm really excited to read it. I still haven't read it. The Old Man and the Sea, also by Hemingway. I absolutely loved this book. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath is one of my all-time favorite books. It's a really sad book and I got triggered a little bit, but I loved it. Dead Poets Society. This book was made after the movie, so it's an adaptation of the movie. But I loved it. I loved the movie as well. And then we have The World of Sex by Henry Miller. This book is about gender, but the way it's written from a point of view of a male from the 50s and 60s. So you can tell it can be a little bit dated, but it was a good read. It was an interesting read. And then down here we have these 5 books. So I have the first book in the Bone Scissor. I have it here, and as you can see I have it in hardcover, and then the second book I have it in paperback, and then the next 2 books I have them on my Kindle. The My Murder wasn't my favorite. The Bone Season series isn't one of my favorite fantasy series, but it's an okay read. Then I have The Hobbit by Tolkien. I have a feeling that I'm going to love this book. I obviously haven't read it, but I think I'm going to love it. And the same with Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I want to read this book this summer actually. Then The Greatest Mysteries of History. This book is absolutely amazing. If you love history, I think you will love this book so much. I loved it so much. And then we have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I did not like this book because the romance was very annoying. I did not like the love story between the 2 characters at all, so I'm not going to continue with this series. Then I have this girl here that helps me to hold the books. Then down here we have a lot of my favorite books. Madeline Miller is one of my favorite authors. The Song of Achilles, it's an amazing book, and this copy is one of the most beautiful copies that I own. I love this book so much. Prince a Dreamer by Lenny Taylor, it's also another amazing book. I do also have the sequel, but I have it on my room because I'm currently reading the sequel, but this duology, it's amazing. The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This is a historical fiction set in New Zealand, and it also has some astrology things, but the first chapter is like 100 pages. This is the type of book that you need a lot of time and patience to read, I feel like, if you do want to enjoy it. So I still haven't read it. The Priory of the Orange Tree, I have read this book. I read it last summer. I did like it, but it wasn't like an all-time favorite book. I can understand why so many people love this book, but I do not really connect that much with Samantha Shannon's writing. I do enjoy it, but I do not love it. So it was a fun read, but it wasn't anything too groundbreaking for me. Valley of the Dolls, one of my all-time favorite books. It's a really messed up book, but I do love it so much. And also I have these hot pink sprayed edges. This is the 15th anniversary book, I think. If We Are Villains, another all-time favorite book. This is a dark academia book, and then Circe by Madeline Miller, an all-time favorite book as well. These 3 are some of my all-time favorite books. Circe is an amazing book, and Valley of the Dolls, I feel like nobody reads this book anymore, but it's such a good book. There's a lot of triggers and there's so many fucked up things in this book, but I don't know, I do like it. Here we have the Bone Season. From all the books of this series, the Bone Season is still my favorite book from the series. Then we have Love is Blind by William Boyd. I have not read this book. And then we also have The Starry Sea by Eddie Morgenstern. I sadly DNF'd this book because I wasn't liking it. And then here we have two pictures of me and my mom. This is me as a toddler and this is me when I was 15 or 16. So yeah, hi mom. Then this part of the shelf is where this is covered, so you cannot see this when the door is closed. Here we have the edition of Emma. And then here I have some random books. This One and Love by Will Derbyshire. The first time I read this, I had never fallen in love. So when I read it, it didn't really impact me. But the second time I read it, it was right after a breakup. So I got a little bit too emotional. Vogue on Calvin Klein. My mom got this book for me. Biography Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix. He's fucking amazing. Nothing else to say. Letters to Theo by Vincent van Gogh. I have this book in Spanish. Letters to Theo. I've actually been to the asylum Vincent van Gogh was in. When I was in La Provence, I visited a lot of post-impressionism places and I visited his town where he lived and everything. And I have so much love for this man, so I'm really excited to read it. I still haven't read this book. Then I have Memorias Adriano. I still haven't read this book. I want to read it during the summer. This is a historical fiction of Adriano, obviously. I have read the first chapter, and the first chapter is actually when Vesuvius was erupting, so when Pompeii basically was all covered in lava and ash. So I'm really excited to continue reading this book. And then we have The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I have no idea why I bought this book in English because the author is Mexican, so the book is written in Spanish. And then down here I have these books. Here I have a gap because I'm currently reading this book, Astrology, Astronomy and Psych 101. I have read all of these books. Astrology 101 wasn't anything too special because everything that's in this book is so basic and you can find everything online. But with these two books, they are very interesting to read. Then we have Wikipedia. This is a basic guide to witchcraft. And then we have To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I have not read this book. Then we have The Diary of a Young Girl by Anna Frank, Call Me by Your Name by Andrea Seaman. I read this book last summer and oh god, it still kind of haunts me to this day. Love stories can really hurt me in some ways. The relationship they had, it was kind of sad in my opinion. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I have not read this book. El Boss by Sofia Amoruso. I have read this book and I liked it when I read it. I'm sure if I read it now, I wouldn't like it so much. Go Ask Alice by Beatrice Sparks. An amazing book. Like I love this book so much. And We Are Liars by E. Lockhart. I feel like you can either love or hate this book and I actually really enjoyed this book. The ending of this book was something that I was not expecting. I do not understand why everyone thinks this book is a sad book because I don't think it's sad. I want to quickly show you some books that I have on my bedroom. I have The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, Hero David Bowie. This is a biography of David Bowie. Then we have Mythology by Edith Hamilton, Akotar by Sarah J. Maas. This would be my first time reading this book. I do not really know anything about this book, but everyone loves it, so hopefully I will like it. Mist of Nightmares by Lenny Taylor. I'm really liking it so far. I loved the first book. The Greatest Mysteries of History, Volume 2. I just said before I loved Volume 1, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And then Impressionist. I am halfway through this book. I love Impressionist art. I already said that Claude Monet is one of my favorite painters and it just makes me so happy to read this book. Here we have a lot of the archives. All these books are in Latin and mostly of these books are in Spanish, Latin or French. So in the top shelves, these 3 books are in French and then these 2 books are in Spanish. This is a copy of Jenner of my grandma. The one on top, I love that book, is Asylum by Patrick McGrath. I really enjoyed that book. And then underneath that, there's De Parta Princesa Morta by Canice Mourad. And we have Patria, Luz Ducay. These are Spanish books. I have these dogs here and I also have this and this one that helped me to hold the book. Then here in front of the hardbacks I have all these elephants. I love elephants so much. I think they're so cute. This is all thrillers and noirs novels. Noir is a type of thrillers. I don't hear people on booktube talk about noir novels, but I love them. And here we have a lot of Agatha Christie books. As you can see, in one book there's two different stories. Then here we have some thrillers and dark novels. My mom loves Swedish authors. As you can see, Camilla Läckberg is one of her favorite authors. She has pretty much all her books. Another Agatha Christie book with 3 stories. Here we have some Joel Dicker. I have his 2 other books on my Kindle, but this is his first book and his last book. Then we have some more Camilla Läckberg, another Agatha Christie, John Grisham. And this is my mom when she graduated from her master's degree. As you can see, she was the only girl in her entire class. My mom was the OG girl boss. She was a woman in a world of men, so I'm very proud of her. And next to that, I have this owl that I got in Ibiza. My mom is from Ibiza, the island, so I like having these 2 together. Then here we have a random selection of hardcovers. All of these books are in Spanish. Here we have To Dark Academia, El Tiempo Entre Costuras, an amazing book. I haven't read these 3 books, but they are all from the Editorial Planeta. It's a Spanish publishing house, and I really enjoy that publishing house, so I want to read these 3. Then here we have the 4 books of The Shadow of the Wind. There's actually a 5th one, but my mom is currently reading that one, so that's why it's not on the bookshelf. I haven't read any of these 4 books. My mom really liked this one, so I want to read it as well. La Catedral del Mar. This is based in Barcelona, and I love La Catedral del Mar. There's also a TV series, and this is the sequel of the book, and then this is just another book by the same author, and I haven't read this book. Here I have a lot of graphic novels of when my siblings and me were kids. And then down here I have a lot of albums of travels and just of my mom, of me, and just photo albums. And then lastly, on my living room, I have these 5 books. I've read every single one of them. My favorite one, I think, is probably Geography and Irrelevant by Karin Rothfeld. These are fashion and photography books. So that was it. Those were my new bookshelves. I hope you guys liked this video. I had a lot of fun filming everything, and I just love talking about books, being able to show you my collection and talking about them and just showing you everything. So I hope you guys liked this video, and I will see you very soon. Bye.